Hi, this is Vicky, also known as DragonflySoars. You're watching DragonflySoars. I'm recording this on Tuesday, August 4th, and it's about 5:45. Today will be a lot about my trip. I do have projects to show you as well. I have not decided yet how I'm going to do pictures, because I do have quite a few pictures, but I don't know, splicing them in while I'm talking sometimes may chop up the story. I will have to decide once I'm done recording. So we saw, I'm trying to think what has happened since I talked to you last. We went to the movies. I don't remember what we saw. Oh, I saw Ant-Man with my son. I'm like, I saw something. I had to go take the cats to stay with my mom and my son. So I actually stayed overnight Thursday, and Friday, I took off Friday. And Friday morning, we went to an early showing of Ant-Man so that we could see it together. And then I took him back home, and shortly before they were going to leave for work anyway, I left and came back. So I saw Ant-Man. This means I also worked on the Twitchy sock during that time period. I also worked on the Twitchy sock at various times during our trip. So I will show you that. Saturday, the internet cable provider came, and so on time, no problems there. It did take a little longer than we were expecting, but everything's set up. We have real internet. We also have new TV. Well, it's the same as what I had at my old place, so I'm used to the remote and the controls and everything. It's all second nature. Best friend hasn't actually tried to use it yet. I suspect there'll be a couple things that may take some adjusting, but I'm not sure because he was at my house enough that maybe it's not an issue at all. Because the internet guy came and the internet is set up in the room I normally record, everything is discombobulated, and it was going to be too hard to try and record in there unless I cleaned it all up, and that wasn't happening right now. For one thing, we're trying to get the wireless printer set up, and we can't figure out, and we only briefly looked last night, but so far we can't figure out where the electrical plug went for it. But anyway, so we have good internet. I'm waiting to see how it will go for uploading. So I'm going to try and upload from home tonight, depending on how the file size ends up being. Because I do have things to share and stories to tell, and I suspect this will be a long podcast, it may be so much bigger than normal that it might not be a fair assessment. But so far, so good on the internet. We only used it briefly before we ended up leaving for vacation. Just enough to check that yes, it was working, yes, it was much faster, and then we were done. We went then to the Bristol Renaissance Fair, which is our local Renaissance fair that runs basically all summer. And we had a really good time there. We went much later in the day than we normally did because the internet guy and because we hadn't packed. We had so much to do. We just hadn't bothered packing and figured we'd deal with it, and every place we were going was a big city. There was nothing we were going to need that we couldn't pick up somewhere. So we went to Bristol Renaissance Fair later than we normally would have, but that means we also got to see some of the stuff that was later in the day than normal. Now, we didn't get anything there. We got lunch, which of course we ate. We got fudge, which we mostly ate. But we saw shows, but we didn't actually, I don't think we got anything at the fair. But I do have pictures from Bristol Renaissance of primarily the Barely Balanced show, which is this team of 3 people. There's a husband and wife. Last year when we went, they were engaged, just about to get married. Now they're married, and their best friend, Jimmy. And they're just funny. We recently started following them on Facebook, and they just seem like fun people. So we went to a couple of their shows because they do a different show during the daytime, and the last show of the day is their fire show. So we went to the fire show and the regular show. So I have some pictures from that, including me holding up my sock, because at various times throughout the trip I held up the sock. So let me put those pictures in.
I gotta start.
All right, here we go.
I did remember something else. Up through Sunday was still Tour de Fleece, so I did spin every day of Tour de Fleece. I then spun sporadically from that point on, but all on the spindle. I might as well show you that now. Last night I finished spinning the last of the fiber, and so it's still on the spindle. I will be, the wind's blowing, I have this cup and this one, so I will be making a second flying ball like this one out of these, and then I will 2-ply them together. I have been trying to decide if I want to 2-ply them on the wheel or the spindle, and I haven't decided yet, but I did do that, and I have some pictures of that along the way. So Saturday after the Renaissance Fair, we drove to Schaumburg, Illinois, and that was as far as we were going the first day because it just was a good place to stay. We really like Joe's Crab Shack, and that's in Schaumburg, so we got dinner there and stayed overnight in a, what was it? I don't remember what it was. It was basically a hotel for people that commute, like people that, it was a something extended stay. And I want to say like maybe a Hilton extended stay, but I'm not positive. Plain. But they were set up for people that are working in the area and need a place to stay. So it actually had a kitchenette, so, and you could actually borrow pots and pans and dishes from them, and so that you could make your own food because you are essentially living there. And even while we were there, there was people that were passing by in the lobby that the people that worked there clearly knew these people because they were there frequently. One woman's like, yeah, you get me for another 2 weeks. And so it was actually a really nice place to stay and not very expensive. And I think we actually got a little bit cheaper rate because it was the weekend, and their busy time is actually the weekdays. So that was Saturday. Sunday we got up maybe 8. Throughout the trip we were kind of getting up at like 7 or 8 most days. We didn't, I think there was only one day we actually slept in. Most days we were sleeping in from what we normally do, but we weren't sleeping in a ton. So I drove us down to Springfield, Illinois, and in Springfield, we were going to see the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum and Library, because I had looked it up and thought it sounded interesting. I really like Abraham Lincoln. I'm not a big history fan. I'm not a big museum fan, but I really like Abraham Lincoln, and so I figured we could stop there because best friend is a history fan. We both kind of, at least it was a topic I was interested in. Well, we figured we'd stop there, maybe get some lunch, be there for an hour or so, and then continue on our way. Well, we ended up spending a lot of time there. The museum is excellent. It has, you do a walking tour of the early part of Lincoln's life on one side, and then you do his White House years on all the way up to his death on another side, and everything is set up, and it's not interactive, but the stories are short but interesting. It was just good. And then they had two theaters. One of them it looked like an old-fashioned theater when you first got in, but then it actually had 3 screens, and it had different things playing on the different screens, and the seats actually were rumble seats, so when they did like the Civil War shooting, it all rumbled, and and when they did lightning, the theater, flashed and everything. But what we were really impressed with was the fact that the presentation was about how we need to be careful that Lincoln the legend doesn't become our truth, that we need to remember that Lincoln the man, had his faults. He had trying to remember the true story. Like, one of the things they were talking about was that not everyone agrees that he abolished slavery. That some people said that the way the Emancipation Proclamation was written, it didn't actually free anyone at that time. It did set the groundwork, but not everybody was in agreement. Not everybody liked him. So, whereas we think of him as this, he's this kind of almost mythical figure, don't think of him that way. And then we went through the second half of his life. We could have done that anyway, but we were kind of watching the time. We went through the second half of his life. In that section, there was a bunch of dresses, because Mary Todd Lincoln was seen as not good enough for society. So they were actually like showing her dress and what other people would have worn. They also, in a later part, had Civil War uniforms. So I took a bunch of pictures to share with Mom, because she's with the dolls she's very interested in costumes. So I took a bunch of pictures, and actually I'll post them here, because I think they're all I have for the Lincoln stuff. All right, there's a great big bumblebee flying around. Okay, so, and then there was a hologram theater, which is very interesting because, I don't want to spoil it. I realize that not everybody will see this, but just trust me, it was a guy walking through talking about how things in the library become clues. But the way they did it with technology was just really cool. If anybody wants to talk to me, I will tell them, but it was just, I don't want to spoil it. It was cool. So they also had a special going on where for a couple extra bucks, there was a special exhibit in the local train station, which is no longer used as a train station, that for the Steven Spielberg movie Lincoln, and how they took the time to really map out and try and really make that world real. So we went there. Then we also went to the library. Now the library is truly just a library. It is a research library. It wasn't open because we were there on a Sunday. And the security guard said, you're welcome to walk around any of the open areas. There's not a whole lot here. So we did. Then we, best friend wanted to go to the old courthouse, which was just like a block away. It didn't look like something you could go into from the outside, but there was a sign saying they were open, so I thought maybe, well, we were thinking maybe just the grounds were open. So we decided to walk around, and we saw people coming out one of the sides, and so we're like, okay, let's go. And it turned out that it was totally open to the public. They need to advertise better, I think. But it was the old courthouse. In fact, it was one of the places they brought Abraham Lincoln to rest after his death. So they just talked about different things that went on over time with slavery and Illinois being a free state and a bunch of other information like that. Then we went across the street to see where Lincoln used to work. You can only see the outside, but there's a statue of him. I'll put that here. And then we walked to the state capitol building, and we spent a little bit of time walking around that. It was very interesting architecture. They had a bunch of different statues around that, and I found a website that explained each of the statues and why they were represented, who they were, and why they were represented in the way they were. So that was interesting. Then we decided to go back to the car. We were going to drive by the house where Lincoln lived, and then realized that it wasn't just a house. They had actually built up like this mini village around it, and we didn't stay for that. We decided that if we go, because he's a Cardinals fan, it is highly likely we will go to St. Louis again. So we decided we will just count Springfield as a stop on the way that we want to do again and do the little mini village. And then we got to St. Louis, checked into our hotel. Our hotel was interesting. It used to be a hotel strictly for corporations. This is what we heard. So the lobby is very nice. There is a dress code for being in the lobby that best friend did not meet, because you had to have at least a polo shirt, and he was on vacation, so he only had t-shirts. And most of the time graphic t-shirts, you know, with Star Wars or something on them. There was also restaurants in there that we couldn't eat at because we didn't meet the dress code. The room was loud. It was very clean. It was very small. But considering it was a heat index of 116 degrees most of the time we were there, the room was surprisingly comfortable, temperature-wise. The bed made noise. It was all in all one of those things that we're just figure we are going to laugh about later. Well, we weren't even laughing about it then. We're just like, wow, we will not be staying here again if we have a choice. But it was close to everything. It was reasonably priced compared to a lot of the other hotels. We were told it is conference season, so apparently a lot of the hotels were like double what we're used to seeing, and even for St. Louis. And so this was reasonably priced and within walking distance of many of the things we wanted to do, like go to the game. So Monday we went on a stadium tour of Busch Stadium, and we also went to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Those were very well done. I don't care that much about baseball, and as I've said, I'm not a huge history fan. I mean, there's got to be a story for me to be interested. And these were both very interesting. I mean, they kept my interest all the way through. The only problem I was having was throughout the entire trip, my lower back was hurting, and so if I stood anywhere too long, I was having a problem. If I was walking, I was okay. I also, I believe, took another photo of my sock while at the stadium, so I think I'll try and post one here, and some stadium pictures. All right, so we had been thinking that we would, we went to lunch at the at a restaurant connected to the Hall of Fame. And then we were thinking we were going to go to the St. Louis Zoo, but the whole baseball thing took way longer than we were expecting. So we just went to Forest Park and walked around a lot. It was raining periodically off and on. We walked across some of the bridges. There was a new sculpture garden that hadn't been there before. I can see a bunny in the yard. And it's being very slow, like it's hoping I don't see it. There's a new sculpture garden. So we just kind of walked around through the rain and just hung out, basically. In the evenings, we were kind of hanging out at the hotel for the first couple, because it was hot, and so we were worn out. Now, we travel similar to each other. We like to have the things that are planned. You know, like we knew we were going to go stop in Springfield and see the museum. We, of course, were going to the baseball game. We, of course, were going to Ren Fair and Gen Con. In between that stuff, we don't plan a lot. We'll kind of talk about some things that we might want to do, but they're not set in stone until we decide. So one of the things that happened is on the way down, we saw an advertisement for Merrimack Caverns. And best friend turned to me and said, "You like caves?" And I said, "Yeah, I like caves." "Well, but we checked that out." And so we're like, that's good. Especially when we start thinking about the fact that caves would be much cooler than anything else. Like, temperature-wise, because they were a solid 60 degrees when outside it was 96 with the heat at index of 116. And so we were looking up information on the Merrimack Caverns, and I found out that they also had a zip line tour there. Now, I have wanted to do a zip line, and I know we've been talking about this being the summer of fearless knitting. And for me, I don't have any fearless knitting because I'm not afraid of my knitting. So I've been doing things. So I'm doing, I rode my bike. That's my fearless summer. And in this case, I really have been wanting to zip line. It's been kind of on my unofficial bucket list. And I was like, what's the chance I'm going to get this opportunity again soon? Or that, what if I'm kicking myself later that I didn't do it when I had the chance? So I talked to best friend, and he's teasing me that because it was on my bucket list, it was now on his bucket list. But he went with me, totally good sport. So on Tuesday, we went to the caverns, which was so nice and cool in those caverns. And then we went to, and then we did the zip line. And I have pictures of both of those. The pictures from the zip line, you can't take pictures while you're zip lining. So we have a couple pictures from like right before we started, and then they have somebody at the end taking pictures at the end. They say professional photographer. I suppose she is. She gets paid, but actually they're very nice. They're very nice pictures. So I will post a picture of it's the last part of the last zip line. So there was a practice session, and then there was 4 zip lines, and they are connected by suspension bridges. So you go from one tower to the second tower via zip line, and then from second tower to third tower with a bridge, then a zip line, the bridge. The whole thing was about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, something like that. We also got water bottles there. They were trying to sell us on the water bottles, and they were only $5. So we're like, no, we'll take a water bottle. They're actually the metal canteens that have the carabiner, so you could wear them while you were zipping. And we actually used them for the rest of the trip because they were handy. We used them walking. We used them the following day. We went to the zoo. We used them for the zoo. We used them at Gen Con. So very well spent $5. So we got zip lining. I think that's the night we went home. Well, home being relative to the hotel early, because we stopped at Steak and Shake on the way back, had a early supper, and then I think we hung out at the hotel for quite a while, and then eventually went someplace real close by just to get a couple of appetizers to fend off the little hunger because we ate so early. That night I worked on my brioche hat, and I actually finished it the next morning. But does that sound right? Yeah, I finished it the next morning. So my brioche hat that I was doing in solidarity with Paul is done. I don't have a great photo of it because I took it inside the hotel, but I worked on that Tuesday night after the zipline and everything. Let me post the pictures of the zipline stuff. All right, so hat done. Wednesday, I worked on the very last bit of this hat because I was at the final decreases and we were still kind of lounging around. And then we went to the St. Louis Zoo. Now the zoo itself is free. There are some things that can be paid, like the stingrays, the carousel, the train. I don't know what else. We didn't do any of the paid stuff. We just enjoyed the free part. It was very hot that day. That day I actually got a headache from the heat. And we're trying to keep it down because we were going to the baseball game that night. But we spent a good chunk of the day at the zoo. I have pictures of that. And then Wednesday night was the baseball game. We met our friend Allison because she had the tickets, and we they lost, but we got to see the 501st, which are the people that, it's kind of a charity group, but they dress up in costumes from Star Wars, and they have very exacting rules about it because you need to be movie quality, and it needs to fit right and stuff like that. But there was all sorts of people there. I mean, Darth Vader and Yoda and Leia, and I got pictures of some. So, and then they lost the game, which sucked, but, and we got Star Wars t-shirts. And I wore my Star Wars t-shirt the first day at Gen Con because it was the only thing geeky I owned. I might have taken another picture of my sock there, I don't remember. But anyway, I will post the pictures from the game. I just remembered something else I did. When I was done with my hat, I wanted to start something else. And I had brought this, this is Dream in Color lace. I've had this yarn in my stash for quite a while. I found a pattern for a crocheted scarf. Just a second. It's kind of pretty. I didn't have a locking stitch marker, so I threaded my end through there, so I don't want to pull that out. I'm not in love with it. I mean, I was working on it because it was something to work on. I think I'm going to rip it back. I don't remember the name of the pattern. I will link it in the show notes, mostly because it was a Japanese word turned English, and I don't know what the word is. I keep wanting to say it's akimbo, but I don't think that's really what it is. So I started this, but it's not on my Ravelry project pages, and it's just going to get ripped out. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yarn. I'm trying to decide on another project to do. To have because I'm done with this. Oh, shoot. Well, I've been working slowly on my scarf that I work on during conference calls. I did work on it yesterday because I had a few conference calls. So I got, I don't know, a couple inches done. It's not making visible progress, but it is making progress. So I was looking for something else interesting to do, and I've been kind of looking for like a shawl crochet project, but nothing has been grabbing me as a yarn pattern combination. I grabbed this mostly because it was already balled up and I didn't have to think about it too hard. Was really it. So I did that on maybe that was Monday night. I don't remember. I really don't remember. So Thursday, Allison met us in the morning, and not super early. She met us at 9:30, and then we drove to Gen Con in Indianapolis, and we stopped on the way at a diner that she and her family stop at all the time. Just a little diner in the middle of nowhere, honestly. The story is that once upon her time, her dad happened to see a sign for it and decided they should go there, and they did, and they've been going ever since when they go back and forth. Went to Gen Con, got there. Well, we went to her uncle's house to get settled We are meeting my friend Jenny, who's actually from Milwaukee, and I haven't seen her in forever. We had to go all the way to Indianapolis to actually see each other, even though we live 20 minutes apart. And then we went to Gen Con. Got a little overwhelmed, honestly. Found parking, and we only had half an hour in the exhibition hall, which is where all the vendors are. I was shaking. I was shaking on the zip line because you have the adrenaline going. I mean, you could visibly. I was shaking almost as bad at Gen Con. People don't realize it, but I am an introvert, and it was a lot of people. And best friend was also overwhelmed. So, which on the plus side means I didn't feel like it was just me. So we were only there for a little bit. And actually, Allison and Jenny had gone to do one thing, and we were by ourselves. And we met a friend of mine who happened to also be going to Gen Con there. And so we all went out to dinner at this awesome steak place, St. Elmo's. And expensive, but good. And then my friend Steve took us like all around explaining how things worked, where things were, how to get around, what kind of things to check out. It really made us feel a lot better. So that was Thursday. We got back late. We actually felt bad because we didn't have the way to get into the house yet. And so Allison had to wait up for us. And then Friday, they were the ones that stayed out late, so it was okay. The four of us all ate for breakfast, and then Jenny and Allison went and did their things, sometimes together, sometimes not. We did our thing. Best friend tried some demos. My back was hurting, so I was wandering a lot. And then he ended up playing kind of a taste of game of Shadowrun. And so I ended up working on my sock in the hallway. So I have a picture of that, but it's really weird because it came out real orange. I'll show you. Anyway, so then we got dinner. I was gonna say we got a quick dinner, but it didn't turn out to be a very quick dinner. And then we could kind of talk through what we wanted to do. He also got a bunch of like old gaming books. I didn't get much at Gen Con. I got a bracelet that looks like a dragon, which I forgot to bring out here, and a mug, a Doctor Who mug. It's 20 ounces, and it has the TARDIS on it, and you can see the TARDIS embossed when it has nothing in it, but when you put hot coffee in it, the TARDIS turns white, and it obviously shows up. And it's at work because I took it to work right away to use it. So, let me put the dragon bracelet picture here. So Saturday, we mostly wanted to go because we wanted to see the costume parade and contest. And we, by then, knew that there were certain things we wanted to do. And we wanted to get there early enough to pick up something for my son that you could only get if you had a coupon and you were one of the first people in the morning. So each morning they had this dice set. But I can hear the neighbors. But they only had so many each day, and we had missed it before, so we went there early and got that for him. He doesn't know that yet. But we got a couple things for him. We got some things for best friend. We got and then we stopped to see the costume contest. Did a little more walking around, said goodbye to everyone, and then we left about 3:30, I think, and actually started heading home. Got home 9:30-ish Saturday night. The idea being that Sunday would be our rest, quiet, laundry day. It didn't quite work out that way because some friends needed us for stuff that's not mine to say. Anyway, it was not quite the rest day we had been anticipating, but I did do the next, on that day, I did do the next square of the circles of the sun. So this is square number 6. This one, to answer Paul's question, has a little more bulk to it because of the way the petals are. So it's a little thicker in the center than any of the rest of them. But I have pictures of this alone and with the rest of them. And since I've been talking about having pictures of my sock, here is the sock as it is now. It has grown. I'm not sure exactly where it was the last time you saw it, but considering I've done, I don't think I showed it to you the last time, and I had done a movie, I did Ant-Man with best friend, and then I did Ant-Man with my son, and then I had it with me on the trip for various things. It has grown quite a bit, I believe. So I have that. Yesterday I finished spinning on this, which I showed you already. Oh, I was going to say, throughout Gen Con, I used my Woolly Trot 5K bag. It worked great because it was backpack style. So I could put my phone and my wallet in my pockets because I'm a trusting person, but I also, I'm a careful person. So I keep my phone and my wallet, the things I need the most, in my pocket. But this had my knitting and anything we might have purchased, which, well, I didn't purchase anything majorly expensive. So mostly it had knitting and my Kindle and my purse. So the reason I bring this up is because Rain Lover is still doing the Woolly Trot in the fall as well, and she's selling these bags, and the deadline is coming up soon. I want to say August 12th. I did not order another one because they're the same as the previous ones, but I will put a link. And then yesterday I finished part 14 of the Sophie blanket. Now, I had told you guys I wasn't showing it. I had finished part 13 before and started 14, but I didn't want to show you. It was because I wanted to show you these butterflies in there as a whole. And if I had shown you where I was, it wouldn't have looked much like anything. So I believe the last time you saw it was where the aqua is. It was like aqua, light blue, the purple, I don't know, somewhere right around this line. And then these are butterflies in the Sophie's garden. So they're all along the edge. I actually messed up right after the row where you make the butterfly. There's a row that's just single crochet all the way around, and in the chains you do 3 single crochet. Somehow I did the 3 single crochet, but I missed that you were also supposed to do a single crochet into the treble stitch in the middle. So I faked it on the next row because it was a long row and I didn't want to rip it back. And on the next row I actually made a this is all double crochet, and I made a triple that went down into the other triple. And honestly, you can't really tell. If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. But let me post pictures of that. I have 2 pictures. One is a close-up of the butterfly. The color is off on it, but it's hard to get teal and purple to both come out at the same time. I can make one right, or I can make the other right. I can't make both right. And then the other one is best friend holding it up. I was teasing him that he could be the model or the photographer, and he didn't want to be the model, and then I showed him that he didn't actually have to like be visible in the picture because I needed him to hold it up high. So here's those pictures. All right, and that's everything. Actually, it's not totally everything. One more thing. The person I made the secret swap scarf for sent me pictures of it completed, because as I told you, I forgot to take pictures of it completed, and part of that was because I was thinking I have the video to show you, and then I deleted all the videos. I'm still mad at myself about that. I was so proud of myself for that idea. But she sent me pictures of the finished one, so I will post those here. And I realized that it is, I closed out the July thread and I opened up the August thread for Fiber and You. And but I'm going to draw next week. I just know there's a bunch of content here right now, and I have a new person starting at work today, and then we're kind of digging out from being gone, and I did the thing where I locked the old thread, open the new thread, but I will draw next time. At least this time I remembered. Last month I forgot and then had to draw the next month. But there were quite a few posts. And don't forget, if you are fearless knitting or crocheting or whatever you're doing, I call it fearless knitting. Or if you're doing something else fearless. I mean, I posted pictures of the zip line. Whatever else you're doing that's fearless, that you're overcoming something, post that too. I will, and then, and even if you did it in, say, June, because I just said it now, go ahead and post it. I will be drawing for that in September, end of September. Because in my world, I want summer to continue for longer. So, and I think I actually posted somewhere that it was going to be through September. So depending on how things go, I will draw for a special prize from there. I think that is it. I'm going to go put this together and then see how our uploading speed is. So I will talk to you guys all next time. Bye now.